conversation with her best friend, Taylor Bisson. And whereas the desire was to have a day in Bath where everyone could just focus on doing small acts of kindness for each other. And whereas this event is coordinated by Jennifer McDore with the help and support from the community of merchants, organizations, area nonprofits, and a number of individuals participating to make this dream a reality. And whereas the power of kindness lies in every individual, and by recognizing, understanding, and actually using this power, we have the ability to send out a positive ripple that may travel for miles. And whereas no one, no matter how young or how small, is too little to make a difference in our own community and our world, and through random acts of kindness, we can promote healthy behaviors and positive dynamics within our community, nourishing and strengthening our community with a celebration of simple kindness that encourages people to tap into their own human spirit. Now therefore, be it proclaimed that August 16, 2025 shall be recognized as Bath Kindness Day, remembering that simple day-to-day acts of kindness enable our community to be a kinder, safer, and more secure place to live, work, and play, and to urge all citizens to participate in spreading kindness and practicing respect, generosity, patience, and consideration of others, not just this day, but every day of the year. I encourage folks, if you have not attended one of these celebrations in the past, this will be occurring not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, downtown Bath and Front Street. All right, and so the second item that we have on the agenda is a notice of intent to apply to a rural development. This is a Hunt Street pump station and water pollution control facility upgrade. I understand that the USDA requires a public meeting to notify everyone that we will be applying. And I think we have, okay, and so first up we have Julie Millett. There's Julie, our city finance director. To share more information about this.
Thank you, Chair Johnson and members of the Bath City Council. So in your packet, I did include a summary of many wastewater infrastructure projects the city is planning as outlined in the CSO Master Plan, the Fiscal Sustainability Plan, and or the Climate Adaptation Plan. Many of these projects were included in the $24 million wastewater bond the citizens passed in November of '23. This evening, I will only be reviewing those items in summary of projects that the council has an action item on. There are other items listed that you can review that are projects that are still going on. So the first item is that we have an intent to apply to rural development for funding of 3 wastewater projects. The first project would be the water pollution control facility phase 2 upgrade, which is an FSP project. The funding for that project is $9.1 million. So far there is no grants allocated to that project, but we are hopeful when we apply to RD that we might receive grants. So we will be applying to rural development for that. Expected start design is in early fall, and then planning a tentative spring of 27 bid in construction. And so this is the public meeting to notify you of our intent to apply to RD. The second project is Hunt Street pump station and force main upgrade. And so that funding is $8.45 million. There's grants allocated so far of $328,000 for design and engineering. The city is applying for a FEMA grant for construction, but we will also be applying to rural development for the loan, hopefully, and grant funds in case we don't get that FEMA grant. And then, we also have 1.75 million of TIF allocated to this project. The first project, the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, is not TIF eligible because it's not under the CSO master plan. So Hunt Street is TIF eligible, and we do have, like I said, 1.75 million allocated to that project. The schedule, the project design is complete, and then we are waiting to know funding, so fill out the RD application. We filled out the FEMA grant application, waiting to know funding before we put it out to bid. And so hopefully in fall of 2025, we should be able to put that out to bid, construction starting in spring of 26. And the last project that we'll put on the RD application is the cross-country interceptor replacement. And that is a $5.36 million project, a big stretch project for the city at this point, depending on funding and how much we get from RD. If we don't get what we need, we could lower that project to just from court to academy to do just the worst parts. So at this point, we don't have any grant funding for that project. And so we would be applying to rural development for the whole amount. And again, this is just the public meeting to talk about the 3 projects that we're applying to for RD.
Any counselor questions, comments regarding this? Should we make her? Thank you, Julie.
Okay.
All right, before public comment, do we want to check in?
Yeah, I think we want to try to give Zoom a try, although I was getting concerned Chief Booth might have to take action against the speaker back there.
Counselor McCorkle, can you hear us? Sounds like you can hear us, but we can't hear you.
They can hear us. So there's something, one of the speakers back here was crackling.
They can hear each other, it seems like.
So Michael, if I turn on my laptop and allow their outgoing audio, am I gonna have some backfeed problems with the room audio? What's that?
Probably the first couple of minutes, you just hear a very loud squeal.
Okay, try speaking up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
It actually.
Working all right?
Yeah, we
It's
might just
working.
be going with.
All right is a good description.
Good enough. Okay, great.
Hold on a second. Council Mansfield Pryor, do you want to just try it real quick?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Beautiful, great.
Great.
All right. And
We'll try to manage this, yeah.
sorry.
We got it.
Okay. All right. Then the next item on our agenda. Sorry about this, folks. Public comment period. So, public comment period is a time specifically for the public to speak on a topic that does not appear on the agenda tonight. So, if you are here and would like to talk about an item that does appear later on in the agenda, I just ask you to hold your comments until that time. The following guidelines still apply.
It reverberates so much.
Yeah.
It was a good try. Keep it going.
Any persons wishing to speak are asked to approach the podium or raise their hand remotely and state their name and address. The council shall limit remarks to 5 minutes or less. concurrent with another speaker rather than repeat points. And you speak no more than twice in any one meeting. Any comments should be limited to an expression of opinions, concerns, or questions, and will be directed through the chair. Public comment period is a time for residents to bring issues to the attention of council. Please note that councilors and the chair cannot answer questions in real time, so we cannot have a back and forth discussion during the meeting, but we absolutely appreciate hearing from you. We ask for respectful and civil participation at all times. With that said, is there anybody here who would like to approach the podium, has anything they would like to share during public comment period? All right, none. Going once, going twice, no public comment, all right. Then we will move right on to our manager's report. I'm gonna turn to Mark Myers, our city manager.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, members of the City Council. I'll try to be brief to make up time for our audio issues. Just two things real quick. First, the library park, the Zorak fountain, the process is underway for getting the fountain back in place. So we now have our new pilings have been driven. There's a new foundation and a base. We will be coordinating over the next month to get the statue back online, and I'm sure that everybody's ready to have the fountain back in action this season. And then second, I just wanted to mention, it was in the city's newsletter, but Garbage to Garden is offering 3-month curbside compost pickup free trials for folks. So anybody interested in getting involved in composting, who would like to try to see what that's all about and see how the curbside collection of that service works, call 207-332-0277 or email info@garbagetogarden.org. It works out great because it also gives me another opportunity if you get missed during curbside collection or have some type of issue with curbside collection. That is the same contact information to reach out for customer service. So info@garbagetogarden.org or 207-332-0277. And that's all.
Okay, great. All right, then we can move on to committee reports. Do we have any counselors who would like to report out on what their city committees have been up to? Councilor Marks.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. The Patent Free Library Board of Trustees is proposing some revisions to its bylaws to be considered at its October annual meeting. And some of these changes affect the makeup of the Board of Trustees and are intended to increase the stability and effectiveness of the board. Input is being sought from served municipalities since a chunk of the changes affect the municipal trustees. So currently Bath has a permanent seat on the Library Board of Trustees, and the other served municipalities share a seat serving 1-year terms on a rotating basis. The proposed changes increase the size of the board so that each served municipality will have a seat, and specify that municipal trustees will serve 3-year terms similar to the trustees that come from the corporators. So details concerning the filling of vacancies and the commencement of terms, the regular terms commence at the annual meeting in October, and what's being considered is that the municipal seats start and end in January, but that's still being worked out because that works better with the elections and committee assignments and all that, and how to handle situations where that 3-year term doesn't sync up with the election cycle. But I don't think anything in practice will really change much, except the expectation, trying to get some stability and continuity among the trustees, hoping that people, when they're named, will stick around for the 3 years. The high turnover that they've had as a result of the old policy is less than optimal. So just wanted to let you all know that there's no action to take unless you have a question or a concern, and I'm happy to try to address those. And if I can't, I know who to ask. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other, Councilor Dunn?
Yeah, the Bath Water District Board takes the month of July off. The building committee had an update on the fire station where I think at the time we met, the estimates weren't complete, and we haven't had an updated presentation yet. Facilities committee
Now's your chance.
Thank you. The Economic Development Committee meets on the fourth Tuesday of the month. We're not meeting in August. The Main Street BAF is having a fundraiser August 31st, which is a Sunday. It's at 5 p.m. at the Waterfront Park, and it is a fundraiser with a live band. So folks who are new to town or have grown up here generationally, it's going to be quite an event. And Main Street BAF's events are always free to the public, and this one is a fundraiser. So I encourage everyone to come out and support that endeavor.
Excellent, thank you. And I see Councilman Bill Pryor has something to share. See if we can hear
We're
him.
going to have a little waiting on this announcement for people to get their notes in. Our listening hall is you don't want to try anything over right now, but the bank, pedestrian transportation committee with citizen volunteers to get their bike party tonight at meeting at Bridge Park at 5 o'clock, and they're going to ride, live music, and then they're meeting and selling ice cream, and bringing people to buy ice cream, and it's always going to be kind of ice cream special. That would have been a regular last month, but we didn't have it planned at that part of the day, so.
To add to that, I have to say, I believe I saw the bike party on my way down, and it looked like a lot of fun. I do have one quick committee report from the Housing Committee. Housing Committee is nearing the end of our drafting a City of Bath short-term rental licensing ordinance that would cap the number of short-term rentals in the city. We will be reviewing a final draft at our meeting in September, and hopefully we'll be bringing an ordinance for council review in October or November, hopefully. So stay tuned. Any more committee reports? Okay, great. Then we will move on to public hearings. We have 4 items for public hearing tonight. First of these, number 2025-69, and this is an ordinance approving a contract with the professional firefighters of Bath. IAFF Local 1611 Bath Firefighters Unit. I believe this is the second passage. I hereby open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? No public comment. All right, I hereby close this public hearing. Next one, number 70. This is also a second passage. This is approving our contract with the professional firefighters of Bath, IAFF Local 1611 Captain's Unit. I hereby open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, I hereby close the hearing. All right, next one. Also a second passage. This is number 71. This is an ordinance. This is an amendment to Chapter 17, the Vehicles and Traffic Parking Appendix, the northwest corner of Center and Water Street. This is the parking space in front of the old dry cleaners. In layman's term, I hereby open the public hearing on this item. Any public comment? No public comment, and I hereby close the public hearing. All right, last one. Item number 2025-73. This is the CDBG Housing Assistance Program and Public Infrastructure Grant Funds. This is a new item for hearing. I hereby open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? No public comment, and I hereby close the public hearing. All right, so next up we have our consent agenda. We have 3 items on here. Number 74, minutes of the previous meeting of July 2nd, 2025, our regular meeting. Next is item number 2025-75. These are our standards of conduct, fair housing resolution, section 504 self-evaluation and transition plan, residential anti-displacement and relocation, and equal employment opportunity statement. Item number 2025-76. This is an order approving the ballot for MMA's vice president and executive committee members. Do I have a motion to accept these as presented?
So moved.
All right. Now I'll turn to Darcy for a roll call. Who has the motion? Thank you. All right, Councilor Marine Business District, C5. This was tabled from our July 2nd, 2025 regular meeting. Do we have a motion to put this item on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. The motion is now on the floor. I am going to turn to Mark Myers, our city manager, to give us a little bit of an overview before we open this up.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, members of the City Council. Before you return to your consideration of this matter, I did just want to do a little bit of table setting in regards to this item. So this was tabled from your July 2nd meeting concerning the Marine C5 district, including the former cannery site. Since the fire in 2006, that property has remained bare except for old concrete foundations. In 2023, Sean Ireland and his team began exploring ways to redevelop the site, and over the past few years, they've had individual and neighborhood and citywide meetings to gather input and feedback on the redevelopment of that property. The city's also been a partner in this process through our brownfields program, which includes site evaluation, public visioning process, which set the foundation for the redevelopment consideration. Following the environmental assessments and community visioning work, the developer then used their own funds to go through a charrette process and develop a plan for the site, a master plan for the site, to create a vision for its redevelopment. In addition to developing this vision for how the site could be further developed and achieve what the community was looking for in the site, the consultants were also able to give the development team an assessment of the city's current code and the changes that would need to be considered in order to achieve that vision. The master plan results were presented to council by the developer back in June, and following the presentation came this zoning code amendment. Just being mindful as we're looking at this, that for any project, the pre-development process, it can be costly and uncertain, and certainly for sites like this that have been dormant nearly 20 years can be double that. So, while there's questions raised about setbacks and building heights at a previous meeting, the proposals that are in front are intended to be a framework for future conversation with the planning board. There's no firm plan for development of the site, just a vision in place and trying to move that vision forward. And certainly want to make sure that, especially as a partner, we continue to try to see that this site does get developed and have concerns about whether or not what happens if it does remain undeveloped. The Director of Planning, Jen Curtis, is here tonight, as well as the applicants to answer questions, but just wanted to give that a little bit of feedback that I thought was missing from the July meeting as well.
Thank you, Mark. Is there any initial council comment on this matter? You guys started. Councilor Jones.
This is both process and content question. So we were asked here for land use code amendments, and I'll ask questions about that in a minute. We passed, if that passes, the amendments are made. What is next? There still has to be a site plan submitted. And what is proposed has to be compliant with the revised land use code. But what is the process of knowing that what is eventually proposed is consistent in the best interest of the overall surrounding others?
Yeah, certainly, Chair Johnson, if you would like to.
I was just going to clarify that for tonight, what we're dealing with tonight is, does this have merit to move to the planning board? That this is an application for an amendment. And I have had conversations with a number of people about my understanding of what it means to have merit to move to the planning board. Is this generally within our comprehensive plan? And if there are details to be worked out that are appropriate for planning board to work out, that will be addressed at planning board. If there then is any sort of, site plan or anything that would typically come back to council, obviously that will come back to council. But at this point, this is simply for merit of, is this generally consistent with our comprehensive plan and land use code to move to planning board to work out details.
Okay, I'm going to go from colleagues and I'll come back.
Okay, Councilor Marks?
Thank you, Chair Johnson. I just wanted to highlight two things that caught my eye, and again, I guess having the answers to these questions when this comes back from the planning board is, the maximum lot coverage is 100%. I'm not sure what that looks like, how you move around, or what the implications are for that. And then also on the maximum building height, I'd be very interested to know what, 70 feet from the ground, how high is that above the roadway? Or just questions that I would have for anything going forward that I think, not showstoppers for tonight at all, and questions that need to be addressed.
Thank you. Any other initial council comments? Councilor Emerson?
Thank you, Chair Johnson. Yeah, after considering my peers, Councilor Dunn and Mark's comments about what will that look like and going forward, what does it look like with the planning board going to merit their review and coming back to us? In the end, the site plans could come back to council for us to look it over as those things come to be. But for now, going to planning board will give them a chance to, with the development, to start those site plans and getting preliminary designs in order, but they can't really proceed doing that, from what I'm understanding, without these changes being made, because there are going to be quite a bit of changes on that property. So I can see not investing the time and money into coming up with designs that they don't know will be approved with the current land use as it is now, with setbacks and yard area. So I can see going forward for merit for the planning board to look over and flesh out, and then coming back to council for review as well.
Thank you, Councilor Emerson. Any other initial council comment? Checking on Zoom, I don't see hands. Okay, then let's move to a public comment. Are there any public comments on this matter? Not seeing no public comment. Okay, then we can move back to any final council comments. Councilor Dunn.
So, I agree that the planning board should look at this. I remain concerned. I'm a fan of getting this developed. I think Sean and Andy are going to. I'm going to really enjoy watching their design process, because I've enjoyed it in their other projects. But in a larger scope, I'm a little bit concerned that if this project aside, we were to say someone could build 70 feet, do we still have two when that 70 feet is in front of somebody's front window? Not going to be in this case, but let's say it was. Would we still have to say no? I think we do, because there's still a site plan that's to be approved. Site plan does not necessarily have to follow the letter of the land use code, is that correct?
Yeah, and I'll ask the Director of Planning, Jen Curtis, to come up to speak to that.
Good evening, councilors. So a couple points I just want to clarify. The site plan approval process is a separate process that follows, in this case, the rezoning. So the rezoning would happen first, and then later on there would be a site plan approval process. When the site plan is proposed, if it meets what is allowed by the zoning, the planning board is compelled to approve it. So I think it is an appropriate question for the planning board. What does that look like? But that's how the process would follow.
But in this case, what we'd be saying is, we would be saying tonight, planning board, go and look at this proposal and give us, because ultimately we have to approve the change, back to us, the planning board.
Correct.
So, let's say the planning board says 70 feet is great, it could still come back to us, we would then be able to say, with their comments, yes or no on that, the change.
Correct. So it goes planning board for their review and a public hearing, and then they make a recommendation to the council. It comes back to the council with that recommendation, and then the council has 2 opportunities to pass it if it gets passed the first time. Okay. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Yeah, I will simply chime in that, I would recommend moving this along to planning board. That this would give local developers the opportunity to, move forward with some sort of plans that would be, in compliance with what is ultimately approved by the planning board. So, any other final council comment? Seeing none, let's move to a roll call vote.
Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
She said yes.
Sorry.
Try again.
We're reading well.
Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
Yes.
Counselor McCorkle.
Yes.
Counselor DeShane.
Yes.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes.
Counselor Norman.
Yes.
Counselor Gazzetti.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Ambrosino.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this moves us on to, the next 3 items are the items that we just, had listed for public hearing. So the first one is number 2025-69. This is the, ordinance approving the contract with the Professional Firefighters of Bath, IAFF Local 1611, the Bath Firefighters Union. Is there a motion to put this item on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion is on the floor. I will turn to City Manager Mark Myers to give us a little more information here.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, members of the City Council. So this is a 3-year agreement from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028. Includes a market adjustment for paramedics, as well as wage increases of 4% on January 1, 26, 3% on January 1, 27, and 3% on January 1, 28.
Is there any initial council comment on this matter? None, and on Zoom, I'm not, we lost it. Okay, any public comment on this item? All right, any final council comment? Okay, with that, let's move along to a roll call vote.
Counselor Ambrosino.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Gazzetti.
Yes.
Counselor Norman.
Yes.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes.
Counselor DeShane.
Yes.
Counselor McCorkle seems to have lost
No.
her.
Oh,
Oh,
here
there
she
she
is.
is. Counselor McCorkle.
Yes.
And Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that moves us along to item number 2025-70. This is an ordinance approving a contract with the Professional Firefighters of Bath, IAFF Local 1611. This is the captain's unit. Do we have a motion to put this item on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
All right, the motion is on the floor. I will turn again to Mark Myers, City Manager, for a little more information.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, members of the City Council. Similar to the firefighters contract, the captain's contract also includes a market adjustment for paramedics and wage increases of 4% on January 1, 26, 3% on January 1, 27, and 3% on January 1, 28.
Thank you. Do we have any initial council comments on this? Okay, what about any public comments on this matter? Any final council comments? All right, then let's move to a roll call vote.
Gotcha, buddy.
Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
Oh, no, you still have to wait for me to be ready.
Oh.
There we go.
Hear me?
I can now.
She said yes.
Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
Yes.
Counselor McCorkle.
Yes.
Counselor DeShane.
Yes.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes.
Counselor Nordman.
Yes.
Counselor Gazzetti.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
And Counselor Ambrosino.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we are now on 2025-71. This is an ordinance, the amendment in chapter 17, vehicles and traffic, parking appendix. This is the northwest corner of Center and Water Streets. Is there a motion to put this item on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is on the floor. I believe we have Chief Booth here to give us a little bit more information about this matter.
Thank you, you, Chair Johnson, members of the council. This is the second passage. We talked last month about removing the 1 30-minute spot in front of the old dry cleaners at Center and Water Street, and this is due to observed and documented traffic issues such as crashes and visibility issues with pedestrians crossing. So we decided that we would push the spaces down 1 spot, leaving the 3 2-hour spaces out of there and removing that 1 30-minute space.
Thank you. Do we have any initial council comment? Any questions for Chief Booth? None, all right. Seeing none, I will ask for any public comment on this matter. Okay. Final council comment? All right, let's move it along to a roll call vote. Thank you.
Counselor Ambrosino.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Gazzetti.
Yes.
Counselor Norman.
Yes.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes.
Counselor Duchesne.
Yes.
Counselor McCorkle. I saw your sign go on.
I hit the wrong button.
Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Get Councilor McCorkle again.
Counselor McCorkle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thumbs up was not legally good enough. Thank
No.
you.
It's gotta be audio and visual.
Thank you, Chief Booth. All right, this moves us along to new business. All right, we are on item number 2025-73. This is a resolution. Let me get to the right page here. To accept and appropriate CDBG Housing Assistance Program and CDBG Public Infrastructure Grant Funds. Do we have a motion to put this item on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion is on the floor. I believe we are going to hear from Missy Parker, the Director of Economic and Community Development. Give us a little more information here.
Good evening, thank you so much. I'm here before you tonight because the city has successfully applied for and received 2 different community development block grant funds through the Department of Economic and Community Development. The first grant is for housing assistance for Bath Housing's project at 540 Center Street. This is approximately 24 one-bedroom units that they have received site plan approval for and are just finishing up their last of their financing and hoping to begin construction later this summer or early fall. That award is about $700,000 that would be a grant to them to make these affordable housing units. The second grant that we applied for last year and have received notice of funding is for a public infrastructure grant to assist the Commercial Street Pump Station project. So you've heard a lot already about that project tonight and previous meetings. So this is an additional just shy of $1 million that would be a grant award to help that reconstruction of that pump station and enforce Maine project. So part of that process was to have a public hearing to acknowledge that we have been awarded these funds and are considering accepting the grant. And the resolution is to accept and appropriate those funds for the specified projects. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Missy. Do we have any initial council comment or questions for Missy? Councilor Gazzetti.
I believe this may have been mentioned earlier, but does the receipt of these grants allow other funding to be used in other areas for the city? Like, do we already have some funds allocated to these projects, or we were going to cover them in other ways?
No, we had anticipated using CDBG funds specifically for 540 Center Street. We did not consider any other city funding for that project. And then with the Commercial Street Pump Station Enforce Maine project, there are a number of different funding sources that we have been working on. So this actually, I believe, and our finance director can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that actually all of these grant funds and loan funds that we are putting into the project reduces the bond funds that we would be using for that larger master plan. So it does help reduce that.
Thank you, and I just want to take a moment to thank staff for the time you spend on the application and the time you will spend on the reporting. Receiving grants takes time and effort, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time and effort to do that.
Thank you.
details the summary of the Howard Street Pump Station and Interceptor upgrade. So, funding, the total project cost is 11.26 million. We do have grant funded allocated so far to this project of 4.41 million. And so that leaves the remainder that will be funded just about 50-50, bond about 3.5 million, and TIF 3.35 million. The schedule, the design is complete, the project has been put out to bid. And you'll hear from Brian in just a minute about the bid. Construction should start in August of 2025, and construction should be completed in winter of 26. And so the council action is to review and approve the bid, and so I'll let Brian talk about the bid process.
Good evening. Very briefly, the project is replacing 1 mile of sewer line from the Dyke Newell School to the Harvard Pump Station. We will be doubling that sewer line that's there now, so we can convey more sewage into the pump station and to the plant. The pump station will also be getting an upgrade that consists of new pumps, a new generator. It'll be able to pump 6 million gallons a day. On July 1st, we opened bids. There were 3 bids. The lowest bidder was Crooker Construction at $9,889,725. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any initial council comment or questions for our city staff here? Councilor Dunn.
Remind me, because it was a minute ago that we talked about it, where in the budget is this year?
In the budget, you would have seen it under TIF, because the account is under the TIF funding, and the other sources are covering expenses and replacing the TIF money.
So one refills the other?
Yes.
Okay. The grant money that's being used is already in our control?
It is not in our control, but it is a MAIF, do I have the initials correct? Grant that's through DOT.
Yeah, those are state funds.
It's a state fund, and they are in contact with us about the grant. We're in contact with them, and, very recent contact and understanding of project timeline and when we'll be asking for reimbursement.
So no impact from state budget, it's state funds, federal funding process, so if it's person funds, so it should be a problem.
We are not anticipating a problem.
And the materials that the river needs are available?
For the most part, they have started ordering the electrical supplies, which is sometimes it takes a long to get here. We expect the project at the pump station to start in the winter this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe, Councilor Corcoran.
Thank you. Will there be disruption to the road as part of this project? Ultimate question is, I know that there's flooding issues at Harvard and Washington, and is there an opportunity to address any of that? Because we're going to do something that's already happening in the road.
You're talking about the flooding that happens right along the river, at Harvard, at the base, at the bottom of Harvard, where it intersects Washington, where they're beginning road construction projects a lot at the same time as this.
I can speak about the pump station. That will have flood resilience. We will have flood-proof doors, be moving out windows and digging around the foundation. As far as the road project, I don't have much to say about that.
I believe, City Manager Mark Myers can speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, and as far as that low-lying area, just south of the pump station. That is, and north, to be honest, from the pump station where there's storm-related flooding. That's something that Rod Melanson, our Director of Sustainability, has been working through assessment and getting funding sources to help look at a project that can help support that area and provide, options for connectivity during the storm periods where flooding goes over the roadway.
Any other initial council comments? All right, any public comment on this item? Okay.
Hello, Madam Chairman.
Hello.
I have a comment on
I
flooding.
think you're gonna start with your
Name first, okay. My name is Kathy Cooper. I'm representing my daughter Carolyn Cooper, who lives at number 1 Juniper Street.
What's your daughter's name?
Carolyn Cooper.
Thank you.
She lives at 1 Juniper Street. She's had flooding in her area, and I'm not sure I'm speaking to the right project, but in this particular instance, the storm drain overflows, and when it overflows, the flooding goes onto the street, and from the street is a short, very short distance into her driveway and into her property around her willow tree. The willow tree very much thrives there from a constant flooding there. But what happens with it backs up into the driveway and becomes too deep for a car to go through on these storm days. There has been damage to the house in the past, so that it was had to have some recovery time to be able to put the house back in order. And then the garage has also been flooded. So there's a lot of relief that she would get from a project such as this. And I hope that it can go forward.
Thank you. Thank you, we appreciate your comments. I don't know, Brian, if you're able to comment on that, if this project would address the flooding in that Juniper Street area?
Thank you. This project is targeting that Juniper area SSL.
Thank you. I know there are other people as well, constituents of mine, who would be happy to hear that. Any other public comments on this item? Okay, any final council comment? Okay, with that, let's move to a roll call vote.
Counselor Ambrosino?
Yes.
Counselor Marks?
Yes.
Counselor Gazzetti?
Yes.
Counselor Norman?
Yes.
Counselor Dunn?
Yes.
Counselor DeChamp?
Yes.
Counselor McCorkle?
Yes.
Counselor Mansfield Pryor?
Yes.
All right, that moves us along to item number 2025-78. This is an ordinance authorizing up to $2,026,500 of the city's general obligation bonds to finance the commercial street pump station and force main upgrade and stormwater study. Do we have a motion to put this item on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion is on the floor. I believe we're going to hear from Julie Miller, our finance director, on this item.
Good evening again, Council. Our last project that we'll talk about this evening, Commercial Street Pump Station and Force Main Upgrade. The funding for that project, $9.47 million. We have grant allocated, including what we're gonna talk about in a minute, the $2 million. Grant allocations so far of $4.66 million, and we were awarded SRF Clean Water Bond funding of $5.8 million for that project. The schedule, the force main is expected to start design in summer of '25, planning on early spring of '26 for the bid, spring of '26 for the construction to start. The pump station is expected to be designed in summer of '25 and tentative summer of '26 for the bid and construction. You already heard from Misty Parker on this project for the CDBG grant of $990,000, and what I am here before you today to talk to you about that we were awarded two different FY24 and FY25 clean water, state revolving loan fund, green project reserve principal forgiveness, of $1 million each, so $2 million. But the city does have to borrow that money and not pay it back because it is principal forgiveness. Those of you that were on the council when we were doing the last round of sewer projects might remember this. We had a $1 million principal forgiveness, and we did the same thing. So we had the council do a bond ordinance for the principal forgiveness amount of, in this case, $2 million, because the bond attorney agrees that this is the best approach, because we do still have to borrow the money, but then it doesn't take away from the $24.6 million voter approved bond that you've heard about, all the projects that we still need to do with that money. Also, there's a little 26, now I can't say that number because I'm so used to talking in millions tonight, but $26,500 the city was awarded of a stormwater non-point source funding principal forgiveness for a stormwater study. And so that's also principal forgiveness, and so I'm asking council if they can approve the bond for $2,026,500 so we can obtain the funds for these principal forgiveness awards.
Thank you, Julie. Do we have any initial council comment on this? Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. Hey, Julie. Thank you for that explanation. It does help to hear you go through it in step-by-step format. So just with this particular set of $1 million fiscal year 24 and 25, and the $26,500, so we borrow it from the bond fund, and then is it like several years, it gets paid right back?
We don't have to pay it back.
I mean, not sorry, back to ourselves from when they reimburse us from the
They
state?
reimburse us as soon as we submit an invoice to them, so as the project's going on and we're paying invoices, we can submit and get that.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Is there any delay with interest piled up or anything like that? That was my first question. And then the
No.
second, that's good to know. And then the second question was, is this the funding that we were looking for from budget discussions when we were saying, hey, we don't know if we can proceed with the commercial street pump station piece? If we'll wait and see what the state does, what the feds do, and we get funding for it, because we put a pin in other projects.
That was CDS funding. And so that, as far as we know, I mean, we've had contact and everything, that's still moving forward. We're not seeing any, delay in that.
Good.
But again, these projects have to get started. We have to expend money before we can start getting them reimbursed. So that would be the same for that CDS funding. I believe that was 1.67 million. I'm hearing it from behind me.
Well, we know that more toward the end of the year, we definitely have all of that once we get the project moving along.
Yes, yeah, because I do think that this project is now gonna start moving now that we know we got like the SRF
Yep.
award and we can move it all forward. I think that you'll see this moving along, and then we will know the CDS. But again, we are in contact with them. There's some preliminary things we have to do with the funding source, and we have been working on those.
Yeah, that's good news. Thank you for that clarification.
And I think as we mentioned with the fire station, well, kind of part of the tricky component of this, and I know there's concerns around federal funding. I mean, the tricky component with the congressionally directed spending we have is, depending on the funding sources, it's the last funding source that we can utilize in a project. So we have to go through and expend those other dollars and then get toward that end of the project. So we won't know until we're getting closer to the finish line. How that process goes, but we haven't seen any signs, and we've been working with the applicable departments on moving those grants forward.
Councilor Dunn.
So, Mark, you just covered something I was about to comment on, that the way this works is that we commit to it. We generate the funding, in this case, part of our bond-approved, voter-approved bonds, and then we've proven that we can pay for it, and then we get reimbursed for part of it because we've proven we can pay for it. Is that about right? Or wrong?
It's right, but not right about what I was talking about.
Okay.
If that is that a fair, so it's right about the agenda item.
Yeah.
That's what the agenda item's related to. The congressionally directed spending is just a federal
Yes,
grant that we're receiving.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that also I, want to point out, and I appreciate, the staff time that Misty puts in and Julie and that Mark contributes, because for the next several years, something like 1,200 days, I think you're gonna be constantly chasing the scatological decisions made in Washington from the administration and as they direct Congress, because it feels like everything we're saying is what we know today and how it works in normal order, it would work. But what we're not saying is we don't know what's gonna happen next. Is that still fair? You guys have that feeling as well? That it's okay for now?
It's okay for now.
That's a good answer.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Any other initial council comments? All right, any public comment on this item? Seeing no public comment, I move back to any final council comment. All right, let's move to a roll call vote.
Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
Yes.
Counselor McCorkle.
Yes.
Counselor DeShane.
Yes.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes.
Counselor Norman.
Yes.
Counselor Gazette.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
And Counselor Ambrosino.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and that brings us finally to item number 2025-79, and this is the ordinance, land use code 1.07 amendment to the DIW proposed rezoning of the industrial/sugar district, 700 Washington Street. We have a motion to put this item on the floor.
So moved. Second.
Great, motion is on the floor.
Thank you.
Let's start with Mark Myers, I believe, give us an overview.
Yep, and I see Jay Kerman from BIW is prepared for a presentation, so I just wanted to really quickly, so before you tonight is the amendment for the industrial shipyard district, specifically concerning BIW. This amendment was proposed for BIW to move forward with the transportation initiatives. The amendment was recommended ought not to pass from the planning board. In response to this recommendation, both city staff and BIW have worked to consider compromises to meet the shipyard's needs and address planning board and residents' concerns. I think those materials were included in your packet with some of that information, as well as some of the feedback from the planning board. As the city advances the zoning code update, one of the goals has been to create clear and consistent rules. And I think that the efforts by staff and BIW to address the district and respond to concerns are steps toward a compromise that would allow for the district to be amended and aligned with the comp plan. And those regulations would then be clearly outlined for future development, rather than using contract zoning to complicate future projects on a case-by-case basis. Just before, and certainly there's time for plenty of comments, but I just wanted to put in front of councilors, possible action items on this. You have the planning board recommendation. You can certainly take action to accept or reject that recommendation. Accepting would reject the zoning code update. Rejecting would accept the zoning code update. You could choose to amend the zoning code amendment to align with one of the proposals that have been included in your packet. And act and move that forward to second passage. You could also send this back to planning board, either with the preferred proposal and looking for a recommendation, or sending it back to planning board as a workshop item going forward. Important to note in this process that none of this is, none of these approvals are for individual projects. They just create the framework necessary to allow for projects to move forward when they meet our established standards. Any projects that we sort of talked about in the Marine District would require site plan approval going forward. But I did, again, just touching base on, I think the compromises are trying to help shift as we move toward the zoning code update from a reliance on contract zoning and instead have a predictable, transparent process that's clear going forward, that supports VIW and their transportation initiatives, but also supports the community and the city's long-term vision and comprehensive plan. That's all from me.
Then let's go ahead, with the presentation.
All right, thank you, Mark, thank you, city councilors. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present our revision to our code amendment request that was previously at planning board and city council in the last 4 months. As Mark mentioned, my name is Jake Airman. I'm a manager in our facilities capital group over at the shipyard. I also have Ryan Salter, our principal civil engineer, and John Fitzgerald, our VP of legal counsel, here to answer any questions that may pop up at the end. As you all know, we've been spending the last 8 months or so working with and listening to the community, city staff, city council, really trying to address a lot of the concerns associated to our project. That hard work is why the council should and can move forward tonight and move this project to a public hearing in September. It's important to demonstrate to our Navy partners, the city of Bath, and the VIW are making positive progress on these critical investments that are going to benefit all of us. As far as the agenda goes tonight, we're going to briefly go over the proposed investments and recap what we intend to do along the Washington Street corridor over the next several years. I'd also like to recap on those discussions that I alluded to that we've had over those last 8 months, both with the community and with the councilors and planning board. And then we'll get into a quick recap on what we had originally put before city council and planning board in June and July, and then present to you what our revised code amendment request is here this evening. Referring to this graphic here, as we've talked about in many of our community sessions, as well as planning board and council meetings, we've been working on a series of designs and proposals associated to substantial improvements along the Washington Street corridor. The first phase of these improvements is really targeted towards parking improvements, as well as traffic and pedestrian upgrades, not only for our employees, but for all local residents as well. There are 4 key areas you'll see on this map, and I highlighted in orange. The first being the parking garage that we're proposing in the main lot. The second is an improvement to our surface lot existing over what we refer to as Fisher Court. The third is what we talk about as our Lot F, and then the fourth would be improvements along the north portion of the Washington Street corridor. I think one key thing to highlight here that is a change from our previous code request is the pausing of the transfer road portion of the Lot F expansion, and we'll talk about that in more detail as we go through this presentation. There's also a phase 2, which will be before the community for further conversation, as well as the city council and planning board in the coming months. These improvements, kind of highlighted in gray, are targeted. Kind of the center map there, highlighted improvements to what we refer to as our soup ship campus development, bringing much needed amenities and services to our employees, while also providing beautification to the streetscape and landscape in the surrounding area. And also further improvements along the Washington Street corridor from Fisher Court down to the south end of the yard. Alright, so one of the things I highlighted was the pedestrian traffic upgrades, like I said, that not only beneficial to our employees, but to the residents in the area as well. Couple key notes on the side highlighting some of these things. We will be introducing between phase 1 and phase 2 over 2,800 linear feet of new sidewalks and bike paths, 18,000 square feet of new landscape area, dedicated shuttle bus pickup lanes to help alleviate some of the traffic congestion along Washington Street, new activated pedestrian crossing lights up and down from the north to the south end of Washington Street, parking areas that we intend to make available for occasional public use, dedicated turn lanes in and out of our lots and facilities, and then new EV charging stations, which again we intend to make available for public use during occasional uses. The views on the left here are kind of conceptual renderings of what we anticipate the cross section is looking like from today to the future. So as you can see on the left, we have 2 main drive lanes, a lane for parking vehicles, a sidewalk right adjacent to it, and then landscaping on either side. I think the substantial change here really is we are going to still have 2 lanes, but have that bus spillover turn lane in places where the vehicles are parking, as well as also kind of removing those sidewalks away from the main drive aisles with landscape on either side, improving safety and traffic flow for all of our employees and pedestrians. This cross section is an example of what would take place on the north end. This issue is even more exacerbated as you get further down in what you'll see highlighted in phase 2, where we'll be able to really increase the landscaping and set those sidewalks off the street. One question that I think has come up a lot during some of our community conversations is why we're looking to bring a number of vehicles into the main yard in lieu of alternative transportation methods. I think it's important to highlight that although these improvements improvements are critical for us to attract and retain talent and bring parking spaces in close proximity to the shipyard. We are still an active leader in alternative transportation methods and will continue to do so in the future. There's a lot of facts there that I won't go through every single one of them, but we actively encourage and promote green transportation methods and will continue to do so. We have approximately 1,200 daily commuters who shuttle from our offsite lots. We have almost 200 incentivized van pool or carpool spaces within our surface lots today, a number we only anticipate increasing with the additional spots we'll gain from the parking garage and surface lots. We also have additional bus routes from Lewiston. We've expanded bicycle racks over the last couple of years around our facility. We have work from home and hybrid office options for our office-based employees. And just yesterday we announced that for the last month we've had the Breeze connection that we partnered with that was reported in the bath. So these efforts will not go away as a result of these parking improvements. We will stay at the forefront of introducing these, but they really pair nicely to help provide the services we need for our employees and maintain our workforce. So kind of narrowing in on the focus of why we're here tonight, I kind of talked about the broader vision and some of the phase 2 components that were not specifically in front of you at this exact moment. But our code amendment request really focuses on the Washington Street corridor and the 4 parcels here in front of you. So we talked about the main lot, we talked about Fisher Court. The third one that is our only industrial improvement along that Washington Street side is one of our steel improvement lines referred to as the panel line, which is number 3 on that map, and then number 4 would be Lot F, and we'll talk about those in more detail. There is no zoning requested for parcel 2, the Fisher Court lot, and then down by parcel 4, again, reiterating, we have paused the transfer portion of Lot F, and there is no request tonight for that portion of that lot. I don't know how I control it. I do. So as we discussed at the beginning, we've had spent a significant amount of time and energy over the last 8 months meeting with the community regarding these improvements, listening and responding to the concerns and recommendations, and trying to find a solution that's most beneficial to our employees, but also the community. These dialogues were kind of coordinated with our third-party facilitator, David Plum, and the Consensus Building Institute, and I think they've been very fruitful and led to a lot of strong dialogue and relationship building over those last 8 months, and hopefully finding a solution that works for everybody. On the community side, we've had 13 public meetings to date with a number of different groups, including folks down on the south end around the Transporter Road, folks up on the north side around Fisher Court, downtown merchants, nonprofits, as well as some other general public meetings. This slide here highlights some of those key themes and interests that we had heard from those conversations. What was made very clear to us is, residents want to be included in our discussions and our designs and have a voice and a dialogue with us on kind of what those improvements look like. There was also a big focus from both the Fisher and the South End resident groups of maintaining a residential character, making sure that we're preserving buildings where we can or avoiding removal of them when possible, better management of our vacant properties, avoiding new traffic into the pedestrian streets, and overall just improving the behavior of BOW employees. And then we also heard to explore opportunity with local businesses and nonprofits, becoming a partner of the vitality of Bath, economically, celebrating history, improving city connectivity, and helping address parking for local businesses and employees. All of these things we feel we've responded to in a very meaningful and materialistic way. So some specifics on the Fisher Court side, we altered that surface lot design, working with those residents, and have foregone demolition of 2 of the properties along with the court, preserving that residential character and meeting a significant concern of theirs. We have also continued to pursue collaborations on preserving some of the properties, whether that be relocation of them to another parcel of land or preserving some of the historical artifacts. And those are ongoing conversations that we're having and still fully intend to support. We have increased our relationship with our property manager as well as within our BW facilities group on maintaining our own properties up and down Washington Street and external to the yard, and we'll continue to increase those relationships. And then we have committed to and we're going to be engaged with not only Main Street Bath but the Maine Maritime Museum on introducing historical and historical elements, signage, and beautification along not only the parking garage but the entire Washington Street corridor to tie in some of those elements. Reiterating again, I think on Transfer Road, the biggest change here is we have separated Transfer Road and Lot F since our previous meeting in July and paused that transfer portion to allow more time for community discussion. We have shared that dialogue with residents hopeful to continue conversations not only related to that specific design that we've discussed, but also potentially alternative solutions that may meet both needs. And as I mentioned, we've committed to ongoing dialogue and community engagement. We do not intend to stop these community conversations. Whether it be related to phase 1 or phase 2, we intend to keep on having this dialogue with them to see how we can best suit the needs. In addition to the community meetings, we've also met with yourself, the City Council, the Planning Board, and a number of other economic committees like the Transportation Committee to discuss these same concerns. Some of the things, in addition to what I highlighted in the community that we've heard, are ways we can improve our bike ped connectivity. I think we've done that with our parking garage design. We've introduced wider, improved connection paths and sidewalks for both bike and pedestrian travel. We are also working on the improved sidewalk connections along Washington Street. I think the main thing we've heard is targeting our requests towards specific project areas rather than a blanket change to our code amendment requests along the entire I-zone, which we can hear in more detail. And make sure that we still have control over future development, not only in BIW, but also for industrial zones that may appear in the future. And of course, continuing dialogue with both yourselves and the community. So I won't spend too much energy here, but just a quick recap. In June and July, we came with a code amendment request, and as I said, that was a little bit more of a blanket request to an adjustment to our code amendment, specifically to our setbacks. We asked for a change at that time from a 50-foot setback to 15 feet, and then from a minimum yard area from 25 feet to 6 feet, matching what was at the C2 commercial zone across the street and aligning with our buildings along Washington Street. Since those discussions and the feedback we received from the Planning Board last month, we've gone back and changed what our request is for tonight. So what we're about to share, we feel, is addressing all of these concerns. We feel like it is targeted. It's addressing zoning changes for those specific lots, the parking garage, panel line, and Lot F. It's aligning with the recommendations and the concerns that we've heard from city staff and the community. And again, I can't emphasize it enough, it pauses the transport portion of this project while we continue community discussion. So there's a map here in a second I'll go through, which will probably be a better graphical representation of what we're proposing. But at a high level, at the main lot area, we are requesting a front setback north of Fisher Court reduced from 50 feet to 35 feet. A front yard area north of Fisher Court reduced from 25 feet to 5 feet. As I mentioned, the Fisher Court lot, there is no zoning requests. It's not in the I district. Lot F, no front setback change, but a front yard setback between Casting Ave and Pine Street reduced from 25 to 5. Panel line, we are looking to maintain the grandfathered setback that's in place of the current facility, and I'll talk about that in a minute, a little more detail. But adjusting the front setback from Castine to Hinckley from 50 to 15, and the front yard between Castine and Pine Street from 25 to 5. And then Transfer Road, no zoning request at this time. So this graphic here is hopefully giving a better visual representation of what I just mentioned. So again, on the main lot side up on parcel 1, yard setback from 25 to 5, front setback from 50 to 35, which will allow for that project to move forward. Nothing on parcel 2. Parcel 3, lot F, yard setback from 25 to 5, and then the red line there by parcel 4, which is the pan line, with the front setback from 50 to 25, or 50 to 15, and yard setback from 25 to 5. So going lot by lot, a little more specifics, this shows you the red line where the 50-foot setback is currently and where the request amendment is for the car garage to 35 feet in the yellow. The panel line, you see a little more detail here. So this is the only industrial improvement we're talking about. This project will go in place, and it's a little hard to see, but there's a green box kind of shown in that top right image. So we currently, our panel line, which is a steel processing line, the southern and western boundaries of that lot will not change. There's a low bay portion of that building that we need to remove and then recreate a new structure in its place and then expand to the east in order to take on some of the technology and automation that we're proposing within that building. But again, no change to the western or southernmost boundary, but when we remove the low bay, we'd be losing our grandfathered setback that we have today. So this is really seeking to maintain what exists in that current facility. And then lot F, again, no change to the front setback, so demonstrating again that 50-foot would remain unchanged. I know there's concerns about the potential future ability for us to go put a structure of any sort there. That would remain still not an option in this current proposal. But a change in the front the yard setback from 25 to 5 feet, which will allow that surface lot area to move forward, including the bus overlays in that area. thank you for your time. We appreciate your vote to approve this to public hearing in September. We're happy to answer any questions, of course. I know over anything in more detail that you may have questions on.
Thank you, Jake, I appreciate that. I know we have a very thorough memo from our city planner, Jen Curtis, in our materials. Did you have anything you wanted to add before we open up to council comment, or are you good?
Thank you, Cheryl. I think all the information I've heard so far is accurate. I did not have a significant amount of time to analyze the amendment proposed by the applicant. And the other thing I just want to point out is if the council did want to get some additional guidance from the planning board and also move this forward tonight, one option would be to request that the planning board hold a meeting in the meantime. The planning board can do that. They can hold a meeting with 72 hours public notice. So that could be requested to be done in the meantime to provide additional guidance on the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Johnson.
I was gonna say, I think we are ready for initial council comment, so let me open it up and start with Councilor Guzzetti.
I wanted to ask a question of our planning director, if I could.
Great.
It's just a process question. I appreciate the explanation that we could get additional feedback from the planning board through a workshop between now and our next meeting. Considering timeframes and public notice and the planning board's own calendars, my question is, if we were to approve this tonight to go forward, must it absolutely have second passage at our next city council meeting, or can that timeline be extended if the planning board needs more time?
Yeah, I would say the second passage in public hearing would go to that next meeting, but certainly you can take an action to table that, or if you needed additional information. So if something were to be approved tonight, the second passage would take place at your first September meeting.
Our first September meeting, not our August 20th.
Correct, sorry, yeah, we don't have enough time to provide public notice to advertise a second passage, public hearing. So yeah, it would be the September meeting.
And the planning board's regular meeting would have been when in September?
The first Tuesday in September, but historically, we have found that getting guidance from the planning board the first Tuesday and then it going to the council on the first Wednesday doesn't allow enough time for processing and really absorption of the information.
So that's why we mentioned as Jen mentioned, having a second meeting, say, for planning board this month, say August 19th, or somewhere around that, something that worked with the planning board schedule would be something that could be doable if council wanted to see that.
Then the default would be that the public hearing would be at our first September meeting, but then the council could table, if needed, at that meeting, the second passage.
Correct.
Thank you.
But by the time they get there could have been a special planning board meeting since I've been in the box.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, any other, initial council comment? Council comment.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, and I want to thank BIW and city staff and planning office for all the, what looks like a very good faith effort to address the concerns and all, and that being the case, and really wanting to hear from the planning board, I'm certainly in favor of the discussion or the special meeting or whatever, hearing from the planning board and giving the public an opportunity to weigh in again, because I have, let us say, a range of opinions in my inbox as to how well the changes address the concerns, some ranging from very positive to very negative. So I just think giving the public a chance to understand and more people a chance to weigh in. And just, I guess this probably isn't part of this, but just in looking at the graphic presentation that you had of the yard setback and the yard and the setback for the parking lot and parking garage, it looked like that was uniform through what used to be Mid-Coast Pizza, and it just seems to me logical that as part of this, that be redefined so that there's only one setback all the way across the front there. So just my 2 cents for the planning board to consider. Thank you.
I have Councilor Mansfield Pryor on Zoom. I can, hopefully it will be enhanced enough for other people here as well.
And I just want to make sure clear to Councilor Mansfield Pryor's point, while it's good information to be able to share, isn't necessarily applicable to the land use code amendment that's proposed. It's one of those project development cases, but I just want to make sure that's clear in this process.
Councilor Dunn.
Thank you. I also appreciate the work done by staff and certainly the planning board and by the applicant. I think that there is, I'm still troubled by some of the requests, but that's why it's a planning board process, and that's why I go back more. I'm troubled that we're still using the phrase, none for building structures with water dependent uses. We built slightly more than half the destroyers for the US Navy. Everything is effectively a water dependent use because we build ships. So, some of that's my understanding, some of that might be the nuance of language. I think at this point, for me, it needs to go back to, obviously, to the planning board. I would like to see them conduct a workshop which provides another opportunity, separate from public meetings, a process, planning board process, focused opportunity for them to hear comments. We will also then hear from constituents, from residents. And I think I agree with the suggestion of the movement of this over the next, whatever it is, month and a half.
Any other council comment before we move on to public comment?
I guess I'll make a brief initial comment.
Okay.
I'm being redundant, but I want to thank everyone's staff, BIW, and the public for being engaged in the process. This is a heavy lift. I mean, our city planners memo, like Councilor Mansfield Pryor stated, was very comprehensive and robust, and I appreciate that. And really the transparency across all parties. I think that's really important to keep communication moving forward and fluidly. So thank you for everyone involved in that part of this process. I'm encouraged by a few things I see in the amendment, namely the water body setbacks and yard areas are not changing from what the current land use code is to what we see now with the amendments for the actual changes with Route 1, Fisher Court, Cassian Avenue, and Hinckley Street. But then also that Transporter Road has a pin in it, which is great. I feel like we need more robust public discussion and collaboration, so I'm really glad to see that change. But I have a question as well. And this, I could have held it for secondary comments from counselors, but I wanted to ask, what will that look like if we were to say, okay, first passage, and then it goes to planning board with special meeting, and they, comb through the details of the amended change, like the changes proposed, and then we could come back September 3rd and say, yay or nay still. So it's not that this is, we're done, we come back, second passage, even between with the special meeting from planning board in August, and then council can either, like you said, Mark, we could table that, or we could say no, or we could say yes, and it's got its second passage. So first passage tonight just gets the ball continued down the road, or unless my peers are talking about waiting until September for first passage and going through a special meeting with planning board? Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead, let's open this up for public comment, and I think we may have some folks on Zoom as well. We'll see, let's start with folks in the room if we have anyone. Is there anyone here who would like to share any thoughts during the public comment period? I thought we would have a line. No? Okay.
Hi, my name's Charlie Whiteshop, 54 Wake Street. Thanks for your time. Thanks for raising working hard. Everybody's opening a lot of work, so I appreciate it. I think that one of the things that's been coming up in the discussion with some of these changes that I could use some clarity on, and not having participated in the entire process for building a comprehensive plan and understanding the details within the comprehensive plan, and it's one thing that I keep getting caught up on, is the reference for how these land use code changes align with our comprehensive plan and where exactly that happens. As a member of the public, it's kind of hard to read components of what's been cited and the memo and information coming from the planning staff, and then continue to read the full language of those sections that have been cited and understand where that's coming from. So I read the sections of the comprehensive plan that talk about ensuring that we're making changes so that we can have our core zone and our central area have design standards and zoning standards that allow it to meet and maintain kind of the historic characteristic of Bath and Bath downtown. And again, I still find it really challenging looking down Washington Street and thinking that the intent for that language was for us to maintain the sightlines for the BIW industrial site. So it's one of those pieces where it's a little bit confusing and a little bit hard to understand, especially since the next portion of that starts talking about parking, and where parking is allowed and what we're shooting for parking in that core central zone for downtown. So again, it would be great to hear a little bit more about that when we're talking about comprehensive plan, how we're meeting the intent of the comprehensive plan, and then also forward thinking for the majority of these projects and the longer term components of these projects is to really know and understand the rest of the sections of the comprehensive plan that we're trying to meet. And then one pin for me, which is a personal thing, that I'm starting to realize is that we do a lot of studies and we do a lot of reviews of studies and studies on many different things, but it feels like the results of those studies kind of get lost in the shuffle. And so I know with the new comprehensive plan, it looks like we're trying to have more accountability, a good sign for people and responsibility for things. But I think it's important to take a minute for the people who have institutional knowledge and history to look back on the information we've already studied and start to ask the questions about how much of our tactic knowledge should be going to additional studies for the things that we studied, and then maybe just start looking at the things that we didn't accomplish for the past studies and what merits carrying forward or revision or looking at again. So, thanks.
Can I get your name again? Sorry.
Sure, it's Charlie, C-H-A-R-Y. Last name is W-O-J-T-Y-S-I-A.
Thank you. All right, anybody else here have public comment? You can come right up to the podium.
Hello, my name is Brandon McBride. I live at 52 Floral Street, here in Bath. I think that this is something I understand before I was in planning. I was very active in the city council in the last town I lived in, which was Plano, Texas. And full disclosure, I didn't work for the BIW, but my comments are purely my own as a citizen. And there's of course details that we have to go into. Everything has to be understood. But at the end of the day, to anybody, your constituents especially, that may be opposed to it, I would say that at worst, what you're talking about, even if you're completely opposed to it, you're either opposed to it because you're worried about a slight aesthetic change, and maybe not in keeping with the city, or you're concerned about more traffic. 45-minute inconvenience twice a day. In my last job, I've been in the tech industry for almost a decade. In my last job, I was a consultant and I participated in a lot of naval warriors in Washington, working closely with the U.S. Navy in my last there's a lot of dangers in the world, and they need more ships. And there are not a lot of shipyards in this country that build those ships. So it seems to me that the slightest inconvenience or a 45-minute-a-day traffic inconvenience is a relatively small price to pay. That's all I have to say. I support this motion, and I hope the council does too.
Thank you.
Can we clarify the address for the speaker?
52 Floral Street.
Do we have anyone else for public comment?
Hello, Mark Andrews, I live out of Ridge Road, Ward 6, and I'm also an employee of Bath Iron Works, and also a member of the Bath Green Dressings Association elected board. And been following this for a while for my union, and I want to say, working with Bath Iron Works in most recent years, they have made a lot of strides to try to create a much more robust environment for the employees. And the shipyard being here since the 1800s, where we used to have horse and buggy out here, we see with the zoning that it's quite compressed between the houses and the shipyard. And the shipyard is asking for us to continue on with their city of ships and to help them beautify the city with this like 18,000 square feet of landscape, pedestrian walkways that are safer for the best pedestrians, as we've already had some of you recently. Also and also to provide, when you're crossing the bridge, this greenery space and also the commercial street and Washington Street corridor, something that is, you were talking about 45 minutes, it takes the cars out of here, and this parking structure you're referring to is supposed to be able to move a great many cars. It's the kind of parking structure you have at an event, like a stadium. So we'll be able to get a large quantity of our folks in and out, and those folks are, of course, the employees are our community, as some of us walk to work and some of us drive 20 miles to work. But we've all lived here for many decades and had that 3:30 in the afternoon rush. And this is their attempt to create a much better environment for us to be able to get in and out of the city faster and safer. So I know I support it, that's my opinion, for this to pass.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who has some public comment to share? Thank you.
Hello, Jim Harper, 27 Farron Street. As a fourth-generation Bath resident and a fourth-generation shipbuilder, I'm here to speak in favor of this request. For thanks to the federal government backing it, state Maine backing it, and I assume our local government backing it. The applicant's initiatives to retain and obtain new employees has been a challenge over the years. We're a compact city, and in doing so, we have trouble being competitive when we need to stay competitive, and that's for the good of the yard and the city. The city is very prosperous with our shipyard, the last shipyard in this area, and again, I look forward to the long-awaited parking garage. It's been spoken to forever. Existing employees and new employees and prospective employees who don't follow through, that's one of the main questions. We've gone through union negotiations in the past, and that's been mandated on the Arctic studies. We've never overcome that. This is a great opportunity for Bath and Bath Iron Works to finally overcome that. I personally think it's an aesthetic improvement. That's a dead area down there. It has no design to it whatsoever. The outcome of this will be very advantageous, I think, to the city and certainly the view shed from the public into the yard. With a large industry, again, we strive to improve our businesses and our employment, and this has, in my opinion, no downside, but only an upside to complementing that. Again, I look forward to the support from local government to do this positively.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak during the public comment period? All right, I am not seeing anyone, so do we have anyone on Zoom? Nobody on Zoom raising their hand? Okay, then let's move on to final council comment. Councilor Chan.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna do another process check here because this is, I feel it's a good place to do that. I'm gonna support moving this forward for a second reading in September. So that I understand, well, I guess what our next conversation would be of like, what would we like
rub the sub-councilor to chant. So what is before you is what planning board saw and is what was sent to planning board for merit. What is being proposed by BLW is an amendment to that. So there would have to be an action tonight to amend the zoning code amendment to the setbacks and things that were in the latest proposal from BLW, if that's what council wants to move forward with. So there does have to be an action, and then you can move that through with first passage.
We have to basically amend, okay, so they saw this, there's a new something tonight. We need to, in a motion, amend that. Then that goes to the planning board with our guidance.
With the council's direction, yep.
Okay, all right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Councilor Vincent.
Again, a process question, and then I do have a more substantive comment, but first passage, second passage, do we have the ability to change what that first passage is when we do the second reading, based on the feedback we get from the planning board?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If I'm understanding you correctly, if you move this forward in first passage, planning board goes and says, we want to adjust X, Y, and Z, at your next meeting, you can then follow that recommendation and amend that.
And that would be second passage, it would be happening.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Anderson.
Yeah, just a final comment. I am encouraged by the changes I see in the amendment. A lot of, a couple of people spoke pretty clearly about the aesthetic changes, the green spaces, and the enhancements that it'll make to, not just for BIW, but the community. But I just want to say I completely understand and appreciation for the vital work that comes out of this facility, and our national security is no small thing, but at the same time, it's not unreasonable for neighbors to hope that protecting the country doesn't mean compromising their quality of life every day. And I think it's fair to ask, how can we support both our defense priorities and a livable community? And I don't think the two should be mutually exclusive. So I appreciate both sides, and hopefully we can strike a balance tonight and move things forward for both.
Thank you. Councilor Marks?
Thank you, Chair Johnson. I'm in broad agreement with everything that has just been said by my colleagues, and I just wanted to, something that I forgot to mention in my earlier comments, I want to recognize the Breeze kickoff event that was yesterday, and that, in addition to the parking changes, that this shows an ongoing effort to minimize the need for parking, and I enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing some ridership numbers on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I understand that the commuter bus to Lewiston has increased their ridership quite a bit as well. That is lovely to know. Councilor Dunn.
So I've got a couple different comments. The first comment goes to our residents' remarks about comprehensive plan versus land use code. And the best way I characterize it, which is at least partly correct, okay, is a comprehensive plan is required that we as a community create the aspiration of what our community should look like, feel like, what we should provide to residents, etc. The land use code is part of the interpretive governance of that aspiration. One is a document that says this is what we want to be. The other is the set of laws that says this is what we're going to do to achieve that. Those need to be close, but one does not necessarily require the other to be exact. And I think that often is lost. I understand the needs. I appreciate the reductions. I think it was a very wise decision to set aside Transporter Road, which is troublesome. I would comment about, from time to time, we remark that traffic flow will be influenced by several things, including the Department of Transportation study. I would caution us
Regarding what we do get back from the planning board through that workshop, if that is the way the council moves forward this evening, I want to revisit what we do have in front of us today, which was actually 3 different proposals. One was to accept the planning board's ought not to pass recommendation. The second was to accept BIW's amendment, and this is a minor difference, but that BIW's amendment has a 5 minimum yard area. This recommendation we got from staff actually has 0 minimum yard area. So we've got 3 different recommendations this evening, and whatever we do get out of the planning board, I hope is more streamlined than that. I did request for a member of the planning board to be here tonight to answer questions. I requested that at the last meeting, and I think the fact that we got a board recommendation, we got a staff recommendation, and we got an applicant recommendation exemplifies how important it is to have a member of the planning board here to present the planning board's perspective. So I just want to second that request. And again, just make clear that we actually had a number of different things to consider tonight, and that I hope that whatever recommendations we get for our next meeting are a little more streamlined. Thank you.
Councilman Chan? Thank you. I just want to do a vocabulary check. When my colleague here mentioned a workshop, somebody help me to understand what the difference between a workshop would be and a semi-structured planning board, which is open to public, which has public hearing, which has public comment. What's different? I'm looking at it.
So-
I follow the two.
My, is it from here?
I was gonna say, you wanna lay first?
What do you go first?
So workshop, just similar to city council workshop, is when they're able to like navigate some of those concepts, particularly with the applicant, to be able to say like, well, why is this, and to say, well, how can this be adjusted? What would it look like if you tweak that? The public hearing setting and how this process is going now has gone in the past is mayor to planning board, you sit into the planning board, they have a public hearing. A public hearing is people come up to the podium, they give their feedback on this, whether it's the applicant or members of the public. And then council has some consideration of the information they've received, and then they move on to a recommendation. So a workshop is a little more of like a work session where we sleeves off and getting into the detail.
What's the public component of that? In a workshop, is it more on observing, and we're in a public hearing?
That is correct.
Then I feel-
So just like a city council workshop, unless you invite public in to participate in that process, then it's just amongst the board members.
So if I just follow that was my intent, is that if they are required, tell them to have a workshop, they have a workshop, they talk about it. It may be the same discussion that they would have had in their straight meeting, but there's a public observation to hear even more granular detail, including like questions for what could immediately follow, which would be public comment.
I think the only thing I would say in this matter is if city council move forward with one of the proposals to then send to the planning board, then they have something specific to discuss instead of something to workshop and navigate. You know, certainly if the intent is just to make sure that the planning board is having discussion on the matter or like navigating that, I think you could do that in the workshop or in the general session, either way. And I looked at Director of Planning, Jen Curtis, if there's anything in that, because I've certainly sat in planning board workshops before, but that's my understanding of that process.
Yep, I would say you nailed the process, so that was accurate.
Excellent, thanks.
Councilor Guzzi?
And again, just to clarify process, if they workshop it and the public can observe that, we are then holding a public hearing at the next council meeting. So there will be an opportunity for the public to provide feedback on whatever it was they observed at the planning board meeting and to the proposal that will be in front of us.
Councilor Dunn?
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. So, as my colleague remarked, we have effectively 3 sets of suggestions. I would, at some point, it would be nice if uncomplicated
so mechanically speaking, or how the procedure should go, would be we would have to go down the previous one and then accept the amended request, and then that would get first passage, and we would ask for planning board to meet a second time this month to dig through and have public hearing, and then come back to us on September 3rd. Is that?
That's
workshop.
That's so procedurally, if this is, and this is the direction it sounds like you're heading, but is that you have the planning board's recommendation, that's all it is. The amendment is what's in front of you.
Okay.
That's what's in front of you. So you can amend that amendment. I guess I could just use change. You can change that amendment. You can, with what as Councilor Dunn suggesting the BIW proposal, you amend that amendment with that proposal, with the guidance that this would also be sent back to the planning board for a public hearing and recommendation later this month. Is that?
Well, do we want?
That accomplished for sure.
I guess the question is it with public hearing, sorry.
Go ahead, Councilor Marks.
Okay, sorry. Whether we recommend a workshop or whether we recommend public hearing, that we still seem to be ambiguous on that.
Yeah, and I think that would probably be it just goes into the motion, however you want to navigate that. So a workshop is you're rolling up your sleeves and going through like the details of the amendment, and typically the applicant's there to provide some feedback information on any points of view from the planning board. It gives them more, just like with you all with a workshop, it gives them a more flexible setting to be able to discuss through matters. In this instance, in my mind, you're sending a proposal to them with very specific things. So I do not know if that is the best setting for a workshop item, and would be better fit to then go to public hearing, and then the planning board in their general session can have comments, ask questions, and then provide their recommendation or their feedback based upon that discussion.
Because that's where I was getting stuck on, is the workshop seems a bit more passive for observers and citizens. Even the roll of your sleep kind of thing. So I think that, and because if indeed there was a workshop and folks did want to come and speak to what we were going to see in September, it's kind of not late, but it's just the runway is much shorter. I've been on the wrong side of that multiple times. It's an awful feeling. So I am supporting the public hearing and the planning board.
I see Jen Cruz is back there.
I just want to highlight another major difference between a workshop and a public hearing, and that is the public notification requirement. So public hearings do have significant public notice requirements, and that could change the timeline going forward, so that it couldn't necessarily come back to council in early September.
Well, I think we can navigate with the timeline we've outlined for the public hearing.
I'm prepared to make a motion, nobody objects. And I think I included it into one motion in two parts. Make a motion to accept the amended proposal amended in the version from the applicant, and to send that to the planning board for their review.
Councilor Dunn, you are going to have to include all those details, so we can't just say that what the proposal that they put in. So I know it's on. Yeah, so it's the staff suggestion the planning board modified and incorporate the BIW proposal, proposed Washington Street setbacks, amended by letter dated July 30, 2025. You were very thorough on that. Is that?
What page of our packet is this?
Sorry? So I believe what you're interested in moving forward with is the IW most recent proposal.
I'm looking at two tables right here.
As of July 3rd.
Yes,
Oh,
that's correct.
Yes.
With the lower of those two tables.
So, I can
sorry, can we not say as, oh, wait, this isn't BIW's letter. Oh, yes, no, BIW's letter dated July 30th, 2025, accept the amendment as proposed in BIW's letter dated July 30th, 2025.
I think it would be beneficial for council and the public to hear what those actual changes are. Just to make sure it's clear, but I certainly understand.
No problem. So, I will move to accept the amended proposal as presented by, BIW and outline that. That said, minimum lot area, all uses none, minimum lot width per lot, none, minimum setbacks, front between Route 1 and Fisher Court, 35 feet. Front between, Castine and Hinckley, 15 feet. All other areas 50 feet. Side setback 25 feet. Rear setback 25 feet. From water bodies 25 feet, except none for buildings and structures for water dependent uses. Minimum yard areas, front between Route 1 and Fisher Court 5 feet. Between Castine and Pine 5 feet. All others 25 feet. Side, and side is 5, rear is 5, from water bodies is 5 feet, except none for buildings and structures with water dependent uses. The maximum lot coverage for all uses is 75. Maximum building height is 75 feet. The second portion of that motion is to send that as written to the planning board for their review.
Excellent. Did I hear somebody second that already?
A little premature, but. And send to.
And send it to planning board for review.
In August.
Okay.
Is that for public hearing, correct?
That is for public hearing, yes.
Yeah.
You need a roll call for this amendment.
Yeah. Great. Okay, I'm in. Ready? Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
Yes.
Counselor McCorkle.
Yes.
Counselor DeShane.
Yes.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes.
Counselor Norman.
Yes.
Counselor Gazzetti.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Ambrosino.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'm good.
Do we need to have, now we have council comment on that specific amendment?
Right.
Specific motions?
Yes.
Do we need to have council?
No, you guys just accept the motion.
Yeah.
What needs to,
We're all set.
what needs to be approved is just the ordinance. You've done the amendment, you added that.
And
It's
now we
just
have to-
Bless
the
the
ordinance as a whole.
Right.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, so there's been an amendment, and the amendment is what you just approved, and then we just have to pass the ordinance.
Yes, motion to pass the ordinance as amended.
Mhm.
Second.
Perfect, thank you.
Council Dunn made the motion, Council Marks second?
No, Counselor DeShane.
No,
No,
that was the first.
Sorry,
That was
I missed it. Yes.
It's okay. It's messy.
I was just about to say it's the AC, it's like the.
It is the AC, I'm dying.
No.
Okay. Oh, it's my turn.
That's yours.
Counselor Ambrosino.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Gazzetti.
Yes.
Counselor Norman.
Yes.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes.
Counselor DeShane.
Yes.
Counselor McCorkle.
Yeah.
And Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you, people. Sorry, I think the heat is in everyone's brain.
Yes,
I can.
please.
All right, in that case, thank you, everyone.
Yep. Thank you. Oh.
So moved.
Second.
Was a second? Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, Counselor Norman.
I am gonna turn to Mark Myers to give us a little more information about this. Ordinance that just came out this week. Proposed ordinance.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, members of the City Council. So this actually originated from conversation with Chair Johnson and Councilor McCorkle, given some recent concerns about people going door to door, soliciting uncertain about who they're representing, what they're doing. And so a number of municipalities have an ordinance in place where those individuals can register with the municipality. The municipality sets some regulations along how they participate in commercial solicitation. And so they register through the municipality with some information about the company and what they're doing. Through the city clerk's office, just like any other business licensing. And then it would help give a better understanding of the community who's out doing door-to-door solicitation. This does, the ordinance as drafted, does just relate to commercial solicitation and would not be for individuals who are fundraising for a nonprofit organization.
Like the Girl Scouts.
Yep. Such as the Girl Scouts. But as many organizations that do solicitation. So I would just say briefly that, I reviewed through the clerk's office, PD, and code's office. Everybody's comfortable with taking this first step forward. Certainly PD and codes get their share of phone calls too when there's new companies who are out going door to door.
All right, initial council comment, Councilor DeChamp.
Thank you. When I was first reviewing this, I was thinking, is this a solution looking for a problem? Do we really need this? And then my contemplation was interrupted by somebody knocking at my door. Which is,
Was it go net speed?
Which is right, to do it, my right to refuse. But then it got me thinking about, for those of us who have ever collected signatures, or where does that fall? It's not a nonprofit, it's not selling anything, but you are going uninvited into somebody's porch, and it does take a great deal of character to do that. But where does that fall in this? Do you need to get a permit to do that?
So within this, the definition of commercial solicitation is to offer goods, services, or real property for sale or rent, or to provide information for the purpose of promoting the sale or rental of goods, services, or real property. That would not be people going door to door for signatures. That would not be religious organizations coming door to door with literature. And then again, it calls out the nonprofit organization selling goods and services would not qualify for registration under this. So it's just strictly for somebody going around. Most active in our community right now have been solar companies and spraying either for insects or for weeds or things of that nature.
Or go net speed,
Yeah. Councilor Emerson, yes.
When I saw this pop up on the agenda, I was pretty excited about this. Same as Councilor DeShan. I recently had someone come up to my door and knock twice within 5 minutes because I didn't answer the first time. We went to a neighbor's house, and I was standing there, had to go to a meeting, told them this, and they kept trying to capture my time on my porch for like 5 or 10 minutes. It did result in me cleaning my front door windows at the end because I realized they were pretty dirty. But other than that, it was a 50% productive use of my time. But yeah, I can really appreciate where we're going with this, and if other communities are doing it, and it feels invasive sometimes, right? You want to give someone your time, but at the same time, they don't know sometimes when to quit and walk off your porch. So I can appreciate this attempt to manage that situation.
Thank you, Councilor. And to clarify, this will not prevent anyone from soliciting. It will
Right.
simply require
Well,
them to register.
prevent there's initial steps in front of them to be able to do this in the city without just coming with none of this in front of them. So.
Exactly, and this was proposed because Councilor McCorkle and I both had some constituents reach out with concerns about people knocking on the door and soliciting.
Yeah.
That people really didn't feel comfortable about and were concerned concerned that, you know, had anyone vetted them, were things feeling a little unsafe, things just seemed a little off.
They have
And
had-
this would require, people who are going door to door soliciting, offering goods for sale to actually be registered in the city.
I've heard this too about like paving services and other things, and I can see the credibility in this for sure.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes, so mechanical questions, operational questions. The guy knocked on my door immediately before yours, and I had the pleasure of him, you know, tucking his shirt in and off his pocket up in the car as he's getting started. What are the mechanics of it? How do people know? I mean, these guys are sending around folks to get leads, to follow up on leads. How do they know that they have to do this?
Well, I'd say people would probably be surprised to find that about half the people actually call and ask if it's a process. But we have, you know, codes, police, other folks out who can help promote that. Certainly, if this goes through passage, we would do our own level of promotion and broadcasting that information. You know, I think we want to treat this as, you know, the intent is not a gotcha. If somebody goes out and is doing this unregistered, and we want to, you know, at least in the first year, educate those companies that are already doing business this way in our community. Like, here's our process. We have a new process. This is what you have to do. We don't think it's onerous. It's going to be a simple application through the city clerk's office. And that's where we direct people if we found somebody to not be following our rules.
Okay, and the second question, the two follow-on questions are we charging a nominal fee for our time because our time has value?
Yeah, so the application fee would come back through council if this moves ahead to second passage in September. We would try to remove fees from ordinances because it's such an onerous process. We do that by resolution.
And the last question is what do they get so that we quiz them before they go to the store and it says, have you registered?
That's-
So they get it.
You would get a license,
Yeah.
just like you
Yeah.
do for any other business.
Shows your license.
It has a city seal. Actually, I believe it is required in here that they have it on a release. So they would receive a copy of that, and they would have that valid proof of registration and be required to prove it.
Yeah.
Well, the city seal is,
Yeah.
it's an embossed seal that.
Each get one. Yeah. Okay.
They pay 30 fees.
Yeah. So I'll keep a printed copy of my door to remind me.
All right, is there, any public comment on this item? Anyone on Zoom?
Everybody in Zoom is
Everyone on Zoom is gone,
Sorry,
right?
the counselors.
Let's go back to any final council comment. Councilor Marks.
I just want to say that with everything else going on, I'm impressed and amazed at my colleagues that have put this together. And also note that, I guess people don't like to come up my driveway because nobody's interrupted me. So I will try not to take that personally, but thank you for the effort and for finding time to do this.
Yeah, we're sending them your house.
Apparently they look at my driveway and they see.
All right, any other final council comment? All right, let's move to, roll call.
Counselor Mansfield Pryor. Yes. Counselor Corbo.
Yes.
Counselor Duchesne.
Yes.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes.
I think she is.
Counselor Jordan.
Yes.
Counselor Gazzetti.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
And Counselor Ambrosino.
Yes.
Great. All right, this moves us on to our last item here. Appointments and reappointments. Item number 2025-81. We have two reappointments this evening. Amanda McDaniel and Michael Mason, both reappointments to the Economic Development Committee. I need a motion to accept this as a slate.
Motion.
Second.
We need to move on to roll call. Sorry. I'm just waiting for you to
Counselor Ambrosino.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Gazzetti.
Yes.
Counselor Jordan.
Yes.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes.
Counselor Duchesne.
Yes.
Counselor
Council, and apologies for the late notice, but I think in this, nothing has changed from what Council has previously approved. So this is a recycling services agreement with Maine. After we pass the garbage to garden contract, in conversations with Maine, they do not do contracts with contractors, and so it had previously been pitched by Garbage to Garden that they would be the sole entity and have Maine as a subcontractor, but that is not the case. So after meeting with Maine, all the same conditions as the original Garbage to Garden proposal, just a separate agreement with them.
Okay. We have any additional council comment? Counselor Dunn.
You said everything is the same, which means that it's like a buck for 8 months either way,
Yeah, something in the. No, and then the same, that was included in the proposal, the same metric for those commodities that do have a rate of return.
Yes, just quick question, technical question too, just in the same window of time as the contract for garbage to burn too, just same like terms of like the time of the contract.
That's a good question, I can't remember off the top of my head, I was just pulling it up.
If it was the same term contract, like it was 5 years,
I think it was
5 years for
years.
Maine, just to align well for records and contract purposes. I don't know, you look at, maybe it was in there. Should say no later.
This is just an effective date of July 1,
Okay.
2025.
To honor, okay, so, yeah, term
Yeah.
agreement, July 1st, 2025, 5 years.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
I am gonna open this up today, forgetting if I did this already, did I open it up for public comment? Is there any public comment on this matter? Everyone on Zoom has gone home, any final council comment? No final council comment? Let's roll call vote this.
Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
She said
Counselor,
Along to Councilor Mansfield Pryor.
say it now. Counselor Mansfield Pryor.
Did you hear me saying yes?
Yes,
You're doing great.
Counselor McCorkle. Counselor Duchesne.
Yes.
Counselor Dunn.
Yes.
Counselor Gordon.
Yes.
Counselor Gazzetti.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Ambrosino.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm gonna ask for the actual mileage of how far Counselor McCormick has traveled during
I
this
know.
meeting. All right, so this was us on counselor comments. I have a couple, but I'd like to let other people go first. Does anyone have any counselor comments? Before we move on, we will have an executive session tonight. Counselor DeChamp.
Thank you. I wanted to take this opportunity, it being August and all, to check in on a goal that we set up at the beginning of the year. And the goal that Counselor Marks and I signed up for was to work on abandoned buildings, reduce blight, foreclosures, which is a complex issue. And I just wanted to report that we are making incremental advances. We are working closely with the codes officer, and we need to really fix some ordinances, and we need to identify them. And so it's not just a done in a day or even done in a year kind of project with everything else that's going on. But I just wanted to report out if the genesis of that is likely that there are those kind of buildings in Ward 1. I think they're probably everywhere, but at 982 on High Street is been a perpetual problem. So we're making we're still paying attention. We're still working on it, and it's going to require a good deal of change for it to make sure that we even like nip it in the bud. And my second thing is, as a reminder, that there is no smoking in the public parks. And I've seen some folks enjoying the library park, which is easy to enjoy, but should do so
own family history here. So when my grandmother, and my grandmother, like not my great or my great-great, but when my grandmother was about 7 or 8 and was growing up in Ukraine in the 19-teens, she was there when government officials came to her little village. They rounded up all the men, including her dad, locked them in the synagogue, barred the doors and windows, and set it on fire. She, along with her mom and her baby sister, fled into the nearby woods. It was winter, and there was a lot of snow, and I think they were panicked, and someone dropped the baby. When they found the baby, she was in a snowbank, and while still alive, was very blue and cold. So before you worry, the story does have a happy ending. Her father was a roofer, and he knew of access to the roof and escaped. He was the sole survivor. The family, now intact, found a peasant in the woods who had very little besides a wood stove, upon which they warmed the baby and revived her. And so their family all together, over the course of the next 2 years, walked to a port in Belgium, where they were taken in by nuns while they waited for a ship to America. And me, as a kid, years later, like in the 80s, hearing these stories, 60 years after the fact, my family was still talking about the peasant with the wood stove and the nuns, the people who helped my family in our time of need. So since 2013, I have served on the pro bono panel of ILAP. It's Maine's legal advocacy organization for immigrants, representing clients with asylum claims. So my thought process has always been that I don't have a wood stove or a convent, certainly, but I know how to handle a legal claim well. And the feeling that I get when I do these cases is, the overwhelming feeling is of absolute patriotism. Like, I am never more proud to be American than when I work with someone who's had to flee their country because of persecution, because of their race, religion, political opinions, etc. And I help them through that complex legal process to become a US citizen, where they will no longer be subject to that persecution. So these are federal cases, and that means that I've been working with clients under the Obama administration, and then Trump, and then Biden, and now Trump again. So, and honestly, until this winter or spring, things were remarkably consistent. And I've taken very much of a wait-and-see approach. Constituents have reached out and have asked me earlier this year concerns about ICE or concerns about what's going to happen with immigrants in Bath and how they will be treated under the current federal administration. And honestly, what I have been seeing has alarmed me. As someone who's been working in the system for almost 13 years, I am seeing due process violations. People who have legal status, meaning that they have gone through the appropriate legal channels, may have work visas, may have pending asylum cases, legal residence status, being detained for no reason other than their immigration status. So I am sharing this information because I want people in this room and people watching at home to know that this is an issue that's really important to me personally, and because I believe that we as a council have a responsibility to do what is in our power to ensure that all Bath residents are treated fairly and given the due process to which they are legally entitled to. So this is really complicated. Immigration policy is federal policy, which typically trumps state, which typically trumps municipalities. So I have been speaking with counselors, with constituents, met by phone this morning with Councilor Gazzetti, with an expert in our state on these policies, to talk about what municipalities in Maine are starting to do, what we can be doing. So I'm really just updating you to let you know that I will keep you updated as we explore potential ways to act on a municipal level. Not yet sure what that will look like, but I want people to know that I think it's important, and I think we need to be having these conversations in our community. My second item, much quicker, much lighter, my council term is going to end in November. I'm not going to run again. I'm very grateful to have served with such a solid group of counselors, and I have gained so much respect for our terrific city staff. Serving on city council has been such a positive experience for me. It's just time for me to focus my time, my attention elsewhere. So if anyone is following along at home and is vaguely interested in running, reach out. I will answer all your questions. Papers are due back by July 19th in order to appear. August, excuse me. Currently July. August 19th in order to appear on the ballot in November. We do have one person who's taken out papers to run in my Ward 7. I see a Leo Lee in the audience already, and if other people are interested, happy to answer your questions, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we can move on to executive session. We have 2 items, real estate matters, per Title I, MRS 405, subsection 6, subsection C.
Motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Let's do it.